When Marcus Chen stood in that elementary school cafeteria and called me a glorified pencil pusher in front of 30 parents, I smiled. One phone call later, his application landed on my desk. By the time I finished his interview, he'd lost more than just the job. He'd lost everything he thought made him untouchable. And that was just the beginning. Justice must be restored and arrogance punished. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, subscribe now. Because the people who don't see trouble coming are always the ones it destroys first. The cafeteria smelled like floor wax and poster paint, that distinct elementary school cocktail that takes you back whether you want it to go or not. I'd arrived 20 minutes early to Lily's piano recital, carrying the bouquet of sunflowers she'd specifically requested. Yellow, she'd said, like sunshine. I spotted her near the makeshift stage, her fingers dancing nervously over invisible keys on her lap. 8 years old and already carrying the weight of divorced parents in separate rows. I waved. She lit up, and for a moment, the $127,000 I'd spent over 3 years keeping everyone comfortable felt worth it. The December cold clung to my jacket as I chose a seat in the middle, neutral territory. Not too close to seem territorial, not too far back to suggest I didn't care. The kind of spatial calculation divorced fathers master by necessity. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. "Did you bring the flowers?" I held them up where she could see. Her grin could have powered the whole building. That's when Vanessa walked in with him. Marcus Chen moved through the cafeteria like he owned the property deed. 6'2", tailored wool coat that probably cost what I paid in monthly child support, and that particular expression wealthy people wear when there's somewhere they consider beneath them. Salt and pepper hair styled with the kind of precision that requires standing appointments. Vanessa looked different. Polished, her hair professionally colored now, handbag I recognized from a store window downtown that I'd never dared enter. The transformation 3 years and my money had bought her. They sat in the front row, the seats I would have taken if things had been different. Lily glanced back at me, then at them, her small face caught between worlds. She waved at both. Marcus didn't acknowledge her. He was scrolling through his phone, legs crossed, Italian leather shoe bouncing with impatience. The recital began. 23 kids murdering various classical pieces with enthusiasm and limited technical skill. I watched each one, applauding genuinely. Marcus checked his watch 4 times during Lily's performance. I counted. When she finished, she looked directly at me. Not at them. At me. The reversal of every divorced father's nightmare became my temporary victory. Afterward, in the lobby, I approached with the sunflowers. Lily broke away from Vanessa and crashed into my legs, wrapping her arms around my waist. "You came." "Wouldn't miss it, sweetheart." I handed her the flowers. That's when Marcus materialized beside us, hand on Lily's shoulder with the possessive casualness of someone establishing territory. "Nice of you to make it, Derek. Must have been tough getting time off from that municipal job of yours." The word municipal dripped with contempt, usually reserved for discussing sewage systems. "Regional operations keeps me busy," I said evenly, "but I wouldn't miss Lily's—" "We need to discuss something." Marcus cut me off, already walking toward the exit. Not a request, a summons. Vanessa took Lily's hand. "Sweetheart, why don't you show Daddy the new dress Marcus bought you?" "Bought with my support payments, I didn't say." Outside, Marcus lit a cigarette without asking if I minded. The December wind scattered ash across my jacket. He didn't apologize. "Look, I'll be direct because that's how I operate." He exhaled smoke in my general direction. "Vanessa and I are taking Lily to Vail for Christmas. 2 weeks. Her first real ski vacation. Our custody agreement specifies alternating holidays, I'm aware. Another drag. But let's be realistic. What can you offer? A weekend at your apartment watching cable? We're talking ski in, ski out accommodations, private lessons, the full experience. My jaw tightened. She has school. We'll handle her assignments. I went to Wharton, Derek. I think I can manage elementary school homework. He flicked ash. This isn't about legal technicalities. This is about what's best for Lily. She deserves opportunities, experiences, not just adequate. The word adequate landed like a slap. You understand, right? Given your position? He gestured vaguely at me, as if my entire existence could be summarized with a wave of his hand. You work for the city. I respect that. Someone has to push papers and process permits. But Lily's world is expanding now. She's being exposed to culture, education, the kind of connections that matter. Parents streamed past us, bundled against the cold, heading to warm cars. Normal people having normal evenings, not standing in parking lots being dissected by men who married their ex-wives. I'll think about it, I managed. Don't think too long. Marcus dropped the cigarette, grinding it under that expensive shoe. We fly out the 20th. I've already arranged it. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the cold with the clear understanding that my agreement was assumed, not requested. I didn't drive straight home. Instead, I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes, heat blasting, watching my breath fog the windows. When did I become the person who needed permission to see his own daughter on Christmas? The drive home took me through neighborhoods I used to know intimately. Past the house Vanessa and I had shared before the divorce. The one I'd kept making mortgage payments on for 8 months after I moved out because she couldn't afford it alone, and Lily needed stability. 8 months, $2,400 monthly, $19,200 total. My apartment was quiet when I walked in. 1 bedroom, efficient kitchen, furniture that was functional rather than stylish. I set my keys in the bowl by the door, the ceramic bowl Lily had made in art class, painted with uneven flowers. The financial folders sat on my desk where I'd left them. I'd been reviewing them for tax purposes, but now I opened them with different eyes. The mortgage payments I just calculated. But there was more. The car. Vanessa's Lexus died 3 months after the divorce. She needed reliable transportation for Lily. I'd co-signed because her credit wasn't strong enough alone. $520 monthly. 36 months so far. $18,120. The medical expenses. Lily's orthodontics consultation that insurance didn't cover. Her anxiety counseling after the divorce. The specialist appointments when she had that unexplained fever last spring. I'd paid everything directly because waiting for insurance reimbursements meant Lily waited for care. $14,300 across various bills and specialists. The furniture. When Vanessa moved to her new place, the place she now shared with Marcus, she needed basics. Bed for Lily, kitchen table, sofa. I'd used my Costco card because she'd get the member discount. She'd promised to pay me back. $3,800, never reimbursed. The school expenses. Private piano lessons that created tonight's recital. $120 monthly for 32 months. $3,840. The clothing. Lily grew fast. Vanessa's salary as a dental receptionist barely covered rent. I'd bought school clothes, winter coats, shoes that fit properly. Always telling myself it was for Lily, not for Vanessa's convenience. Conservative estimate, $40,200 over 3 years. The emergencies. Car repairs when Vanessa's vehicle broke down and she needed to get Lily to school. $1,900. The laptop when hers died and she needed it for work. $100. The security deposit when she moved because her landlord kept the previous one unfairly. $20,200. The child support. the court-ordered amount I'd never missed, $1,200 monthly. 36 months, $43,200. I pulled out a calculator because the number climbing in my head couldn't be accurate. Mortgage continuation, $19,200 car, cosign, $18,720 medical expenses, $14,300 furniture, $30,800 piano lessons, $3,840 of clothing, $4,200 emergency expenses, $5,200 child support, $43,200 total, $112,460, $112,460. Over 3 years, while I'd been eating meal prep chicken and rice 6 days a week to keep grocery costs down, while my car hit 180,000 miles because I couldn't justify a payment, while I'd deferred the dental work my insurance didn't cover because that $2,300 felt irresponsible when Lily might need something. And now, Marcus Chen, who'd arrived in Vanessa's life 8 months ago, was taking my daughter to Vail on my dime, calling my career a dead end, and rearranging custody schedules without consultation. The next morning, I woke up different, not angry. Anger was hot and impulsive. This was cold and methodical. I made coffee, reviewed the financial documents again to confirm my calculations, then made 3 phone calls before 8 a.m. The first was to Vanessa. She answered on the 4th ring, voice still rough with sleep. "Derek, it's early." "I'm withdrawing my permission for the Vail trip." Silence. Then, "What?" "Our custody agreement is clear. Christmas is my year. I'm exercising that right." "But Marcus, we've already paid for everything. The tickets, the lodge." "That's unfortunate." More silence. I could hear her breathing, recalibrating. "Derek, please. She's so excited. You don't want to disappoint her." "I'll discuss it with Lily directly. If she wants to go, we'll revisit the arrangement." "But you and Marcus don't make unilateral decisions about my time with my daughter." "This is ridiculous. You're being petty." "I'm being a father. There's a difference." I hung up before she could respond. The second call was to my attorney. Brief, professional, documenting the situation. The third call was to my office, letting them know I'd be in late. Then I sat at my kitchen table, drinking coffee, watching the December sun turn the frost on my window into something almost beautiful. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't asking permission. I was setting terms. And somewhere in that moment, between the spreadsheets documenting my financial bleeding and the phone call establishing boundaries, I realized something. Marcus Chen had made a critical miscalculation. He'd assumed I was weak because I was generous. He'd mistaken my restraint for inability. He'd built his confidence on a foundation he didn't understand, and foundations like that crumble fast when you know where to apply pressure. 2 days after the recital, I received the text I'd been expecting. "Marcus, we need to talk. Face to face. Not a request. Another summons." The man genuinely couldn't conceptualize a world where people didn't jump at his commands. Me. My office, Friday, 4 p.m. I wanted him on my territory for this conversation, though he didn't know why that mattered yet. Friday afternoon, I watched from my window as Marcus pulled into the visitor parking of the municipal building in his BMW 7 Series. Obsidian black, probably last year's model. He stepped out, adjusting his suit jacket, surveying the building with visible distaste. The Spokane City Municipal Complex isn't architecturally inspiring. Built in the 70s, renovated poorly in the 90s, it serves function over form. But it's also where actual work gets done, permits approved, infrastructure planned, businesses licensed, development projects vetted. Marcus signed in at security, got his visitor badge, and took the elevator to the 3rd floor. My assistant, Paula, buzzed me when he arrived. "Send him in." He entered my office like a man touring a museum of poverty, taking in the standard issue furniture, the file cabinets, the framed city development plans on the walls. His expression suggested he was reevaluating whether I was worth the effort of conversation. "Derek." He didn't offer a handshake, just sat in the chair across from my desk, crossing his legs. "We need to address this situation rationally." "I'm listening." "Vanessa is upset. Lily is confused. You're creating instability over what, exactly?" "Pride?" He leaned forward. "Look, I understand this is difficult, seeing your ex move on. Watching another man provide the life you couldn't. That's got to sting. But taking it out on a child. Be very careful with your next words." Something in my tone made him pause. Brief recalibration. Then he smiled, the expression of someone used to winning negotiations. "I'm trying to be understanding, but you need to recognize reality. Vanessa and I are building a life. Lily is part of that life. You're part of Lily's past. There's a difference." "Is there?" "You work for the city, municipal operations, right? What does that pay? 60,000? 70? He gestured dismissively. "I pull down 400K base, not counting bonuses. I can offer Lily opportunities, education, travel, connections. What can you offer? Weekends at the arcade?" I leaned back in my chair, saying nothing. Sometimes silence is the sharpest response. He interpreted it as resignation. "Be practical. Flexible custody benefits everyone. You get the school plays and parent-teacher conferences. We handle the significant experiences. Everybody wins." "What do you do, Marcus?" The question confused him. "What?" "For work, to earn that 400,000 base." "I'm a senior consultant, business operations, efficiency optimization. I help companies restructure for profitability." He said it with the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged. "Why?" "Just curious. Where are you working currently?" "Between positions at the moment. Consulting has natural gaps between contracts, but I've got opportunities in the pipeline. Several strong prospects." "I'm sure you do." He stood, apparently deciding the conversation had reached its useful conclusion. "So we're agreed? Lily comes to Vail?" "No." His jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." "I'll take that risk." He left without another word, his expensive shoes clicking down the hallway with diminishing authority. I sat at my desk for another minute, then pulled out my phone and made a call. "Paula, do me a favor. Pull the recent applicant files for the Regional Operations Manager position. I want to review them tonight." "All of them?" "Just the ones submitted in the last 2 weeks." There were 17 applications. I found Marcus Chen's on page 3. The email arrived Monday morning from Marcus Chen to Derek Morrison. Subject: custody discussion. Final attempt at reasonableness. "Derek, I'm trying to be diplomatic, but your stubbornness is forcing my hand. Vanessa has consulted with her attorney about modifying the custody arrangement based on changed circumstances, specifically her improved financial situation and ability to provide enhanced opportunities for Lily. I'm not trying to be adversarial, but you need to understand that people in my position have resources. Legal resources, professional networks, connections that matter. Fighting this would be expensive for you and ultimately pointless. I'm offering one last opportunity to be reasonable. Christmas in Vail, and we'll discuss a modified schedule that works for everyone. Otherwise, we proceed legally, and I promise you won't like how that ends. Think about what's best for Lily, not your ego. Marcus." I read it twice, taking in the thinly veiled threats and the assumption that money equaled power. Then I forwarded it to my attorney with a brief note. "Document this. May be relevant." My response to Marcus was shorter. Marcus, noted. My answer remains unchanged. Derek subscribed now, because missing what happens next means missing how arrogance collapses. I didn't respond to Marcus's subsequent emails. 3 arrived over the next week, each more aggressive than the last, building a paper trail that would serve me well later. Instead, I focused on work, specifically on the regional operations manager interviews scheduled for the week before Christmas. The position was significant, overseeing municipal efficiency projects, infrastructure coordination, vendor relations. Salary range, $110,000, $135,000, reporting directly to me. Human Resources had narrowed 17 applicants to 4 finalists. Marcus Chen was number 3. On paper, he looked impressive. Wharton MBA. 10 years of consulting experience, references from companies I recognized. The kind of resume that opened doors without knocking. I reviewed the other applications with genuine attention. 2 were internal candidates. Good people, solid track records, probably deserved the promotion. The 4th was an external candidate from Seattle with municipal government experience. The interview schedule had Marcus coming in Thursday at 2 p.m. I didn't change anything, didn't recuse myself, didn't alert HR to our connection. Everything needed to happen naturally, by the book, without any hint of impropriety. Wednesday evening, Vanessa called. I let it go to voicemail. Derek, please. Marcus is stressed about this job opportunity, and now you're making everything worse with the custody situation. Lily keeps asking why she can't go skiing. Can we just talk like adults? I deleted the message. Thursday morning, I reviewed Marcus's application one final time. His consulting experience was extensive but vague. Efficiency optimization and operational restructuring sounded impressive, without meaning much. His references listed companies but no direct supervisors, always a red flag. I made 3 calls to the companies listed. 2 had no record of Marcus Chen as a consultant. The 3rd confirmed a 6-month contract from 3 years ago, but declined to provide details when I identified myself as a potential employer. Interesting. At 1:45, I reviewed my interview questions, standard behavioral queries, technical scenarios, situational judgment tests. Nothing aggressive, nothing personal. Just thorough. At 2 p.m. exactly, Paula buzzed. Marcus Chen is here for his interview. Send him in. Marcus entered the conference room, neutral ground, not my office, carrying a leather portfolio and the confidence of someone who'd already mentally accepted the job. His expression when he saw me was spectacular. Confusion first, then recognition, then the rapid recalculation of someone realizing they'd walked into a situation they'd catastrophically misjudged. Derek? His voice had lost its authority. You're conducting the interview? I'm the regional director for operations. This position reports to me. I gestured to the chair. Please sit. He remained standing. This is a conflict of interest. How so? We have a personal relationship. We don't, actually. You're dating my ex-wife. That's her relationship, not mine. I opened his file. Unless you're suggesting your professional qualifications should be evaluated based on who you're sleeping with? His face flushed. That's inappropriate. I agree, which is why we'll keep this strictly professional. Please sit down, Mr. Chen. He sat. The power dynamic had shifted so completely I could see him struggling to find his footing. Let's begin. I glanced at his resume. You've listed extensive consulting experience in operational efficiency. Walk me through your most successful project. He launched into a rehearsed answer about restructuring a logistics company, reducing overhead by 30%, improving delivery times. It sounded impressive until you listened carefully and realized he'd described industry standard practices without any specific metrics or verifiable details. What was the company's name? Confidentiality agreements prevent me from... You listed them as a reference. Client confidentiality is standard in consulting. Of course. I made a note. Let's talk about municipal operations. What experience do you have working with government systems? I've consulted for several public sector organizations. Such as? The specifics are confidential, yes. Another note. Mr. Chen, this position requires managing relationships with 14 different municipal departments, coordinating with state agencies, and navigating public procurement regulations. Give me a specific example of when you've successfully worked within bureaucratic constraints. He couldn't. He tried, pivoting to generalities about stakeholder management and navigating complex organizational structures. But there was no substance behind the vocabulary. Tell me about your current employment status. I'm between contracts, as I mentioned. Consulting has natural transition periods. How long have you been between contracts? A pause. 7 months? 7 months is a significant gap in consulting. What have you been doing during that time? His jaw tightened. Evaluating opportunities. I'm selective about projects. Of course. I leaned forward. Mr. Chen, I need to be direct. I've contacted the 3 companies you listed as references. 2 have no record of employing you. The 3rd confirmed a 6-month engagement but wouldn't provide additional details. Can you explain that? Those were confidential contracts. So confidential the companies don't acknowledge they exist? This is, you're targeting me because of Vanessa. I'm evaluating your application using the same criteria I apply to every candidate. I closed his file. Based on this interview and the reference checks, I'm not confident you're a strong fit for this position. You're rejecting me because I'm with your ex-wife. I'm rejecting you because you can't provide verifiable evidence of your claimed experience, you have no relevant municipal operations background, and you've been unemployed for 7 months while claiming to be selective. I stood. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chen. He didn't move. Do you have any idea who I know, the connections I have? Based on your inability to secure employment in 7 months, I'm starting to wonder about that myself. His face went dark. This isn't over. The interview is. Please see yourself out. He grabbed his portfolio and left, his exit lacking the commanding presence of his entrance. Paula appeared in the doorway after he'd gone. That seemed intense. Document everything from that interview. Exact questions asked, his responses, and the reference check results. Date and timestamp it. Trouble? Potentially. I wasn't wrong. The email from Vanessa arrived at 6 p.m. Subject, what did you do? Marcus came home furious. You sabotaged his interview? Seriously, Derek. I know you're angry about Vale, but destroying someone's career because you can't handle your ex moving on is pathetic. You've crossed a line. Marcus has friends in the mayor's office. He's already made calls. Whatever petty revenge you think you're getting, it's going to backfire. Hard. And honestly, this affects Lily. She sees what you're doing. She knows you're being vindictive. Do you want her to think this is how adults behave? I didn't respond. The next email arrived 2 hours later, this time from an address I didn't recognize. Subject, professional concern. Mr. Morrison, it has come to my attention that you may have used your position to interfere with the employment prospects of Marcus Chen due to a personal relationship with his partner. This raises serious questions about your professional judgment and potential abuse of authority. I encourage you to reconsider your decision regarding Mr. Chen's application, or I will have no choice but to escalate this matter to your supervisors and, if necessary, the City Ethics Board. Concerned citizen. I forwarded it to my boss, Regional Director Linda Hartwell, with a brief explanation. Her response was immediate. "Come to my office first thing tomorrow. Bring the Chen file." Linda Hartwell had been with the city for 23 years. She'd survived 4 mayoral administrations, countless budget crises, and more political pressure than most people face in a lifetime. She was also the smartest person I'd worked with, which is why I wasn't worried about the meeting. I arrived at 8 a.m. with the complete Marcus Chen file, including interview notes, reference check documentation, and the emails from both Vanessa and the concerned citizen. Linda read everything in silence. Then she looked up. "Tell me the personal connection." "He's dating my ex-wife. They've been together about 8 months. Did you know he'd applied when you reviewed the applications?" "No. I recognized his name during the initial screening, but I didn't make the connection until I reviewed his full file. By then, he was already scheduled for an interview." "Should you have recused yourself?" "Possibly, but I wanted to evaluate him fairly. If he'd been qualified, I would have moved him forward despite the personal connection." "Was he qualified?" "No. 2 of his 3 references couldn't verify employment. The third confirmed a contract, but wouldn't provide details. He couldn't articulate specific examples of his claimed experience, and he has no municipal operations background." Linda tapped the file. "These interview notes are thorough." "You asked the same questions you asked the other candidates?" "Yes." "And documented his responses immediately after?" "During the interview, actually. Same as always." She leaned back. "Here's the situation. The email came from an account that traces to Marcus Chen's IP address. Not particularly sophisticated. He's also contacted 2 city council members and the mayor's chief of staff with vague allegations of bias." "What do they want?" "They want me to override your decision and hire him, or at least move him forward in the process." She smiled. "I told them to provide specific evidence of impropriety, not vague accusations. They couldn't." "So?" "So you did nothing wrong. You evaluated a candidate using standard criteria, documented everything properly, and made a defensible decision. The fact that he's dating your ex-wife is irrelevant if your process was sound." She closed the file. "Which it was." "What happens next?" "We send him a formal rejection letter citing insufficient qualifications and unverifiable references. If he escalates further, we have documentation. If he goes to the ethics board, we're covered." She paused. "But Derek, here's my advice. This man is going to make noise. He's angry, he's embarrassed, and he's dating your ex-wife. Things might get uglier before they get better." "I understand." "Good. Now go hire one of the qualified candidates, and let's move on." I promoted one of the internal candidates, a woman who'd been doing excellent work for 6 years and deserved the opportunity. Marcus Chen received his rejection letter by certified mail 2 days before Christmas. I spent Christmas morning with Lily. We made pancakes, watched movies, and built a blanket fort in my living room. She didn't mention Vale. Neither did I. But the day after Christmas, things escalated. The voicemail from Linda came at 7 a.m. on December 26th. "Derek, call me when you get this. We have a situation." I called from my car on the way to work. "What happened?" Marcus Chen filed a formal complaint with the City Ethics Board, allegations of nepotism, abuse of authority, and professional retaliation. He's also contacted the Spokesman Review with the story. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "The newspaper?" "They called me yesterday for comment. I declined until we have more information. But Derek, this is escalating beyond what I expected." "What do you need from me?" "Everything. Every interaction with Chen. Every email, every text. Complete documentation of the interview process. Character references from colleagues. I need to build an airtight defense because he's not backing down." I spent the next 2 days assembling documentation. The financial records showing my support payments to Vanessa. The custody agreement. the threatening emails from Marcus, the interview notes, reference check results. Emails from Paula confirming standard procedures were followed. I also did something else. I started researching Marcus Chen. Not the surface-level investigation I'd done before the interview. Deep research. LinkedIn profiles showing job positions that didn't align with his resume. A business that had gone bankrupt in California 2 years ago. Court records showing a civil judgment against him for unpaid debts. An article from a San Francisco business journal about a consulting firm that had folded amid allegations of fraud, with Marcus's name buried in the 3rd paragraph. The man who'd called me inadequate, who'd threatened legal action, who'd positioned himself as untouchable, had a history he'd carefully sanitized. I compiled everything into a folder. Then I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I got angry. Not the hot, impulsive anger that clouds judgment. The cold, focused anger that sharpens it. The City Ethics Board hearing was scheduled for January 15th. Public record, open to observers, the kind of formal proceeding that could destroy careers or vindicate them. Marcus came with an attorney. Expensive suit, leather briefcase, the kind of legal representation that costs $400 hourly. Vanessa sat in the back row, arms crossed, expression hostile. I came with Linda and the city attorney, and with 2 folders full of documentation. The board consisted of 5 members, 3 city employees from different departments, 1 retired judge, and 1 community representative. They sat behind a long table in a windowless conference room, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Marcus's attorney opened. "We're here because Derek Morrison abused his authority as regional director to retaliate against my client for personal reasons. Mr. I. Chen is in a relationship with Mr. Morrison's ex-wife. When Mr. Chen applied for a position in Mr. Morrison's department, Mr. Morrison used his position to ensure my client's rejection despite his qualifications." The attorney presented Marcus's resume, emphasizing his Wharton MBA, his consulting experience, his references. Then it was my turn. "Members of the board, I've prepared documentation showing that Mr. Chen's application was evaluated using the same criteria applied to all candidates. I'd like to submit the following evidence." I distributed folders to each board member. Inside, interview questions asked of all 4 finalists with responses documented. Reference check results for each candidate, the email trail showing standard procedures followed. And something else. Mr. Chen's resume lists employment with 3 consulting firms. I've included documentation showing that 2 of those firms have no record of his employment. The 3rd confirmed a 6-month contract but provided no additional information. I've also included court records showing that Mr. Chen has a civil judgment against him from 2023 for unpaid business debts totaling $87,000. And an article about a consulting firm that collapsed amid fraud allegations, a firm where Mr. Chen was listed as a senior partner. Marcus's attorney shifted. "This is character assassination. This is due diligence, the kind of background check we conduct on every finalist for senior positions. If Mr. Chen had been honest about his employment history and financial judgments, we could have addressed those concerns during the interview process. Instead, he provided false information and is now claiming retaliation when his application was rejected based on verifiable deficiencies." I pulled out another document. I've also included emails from Mr. Chen threatening legal action if I didn't allow him to take my daughter out of state during my custodial time and suggesting that he has connections that would make fighting him pointless. This establishes a pattern of behavior where Mr. Chen uses threats and intimidation to achieve personal goals. The board members read in silence. The retired judge looked up first. "Mr. Chen, can you verify your employment with the firms listed on your resume?" Marcus's face had gone pale. "Some of those were confidential contracts." Can you provide documentation? The nature of consulting work, Mr. Chen, yes or no? Can you verify these positions? Silence. The judge turned to me. Mr. Morrison, did you follow standard interview protocols with Mr. Chen? Yes, Your Honor. The same questions, same evaluation criteria, same reference checks applied to all candidates. And your decision to reject him was based on? Unverifiable employment history, inability to provide specific examples of claimed experience, and lack of relevant municipal operations background. The same criteria used to reject 6 other applicants who didn't make the finalist round. The board deliberated for 20 minutes in a private room. When they returned, the judge spoke. We find no evidence of impropriety in Mr. Morrison's handling of Mr. Chen's application. The documentation shows standard procedures were followed, and the rejection was based on legitimate professional criteria. Mr. Chen's complaint is dismissed. Marcus stood. This is Mr. Chen. The judge's voice cut through the room. Before you say something you regret, I'll note that filing false ethics complaints is itself an ethics violation. You've wasted this board's time and city resources. I suggest you accept this decision and move on. They left. Marcus and his attorney exited first, Vanessa trailing behind. She didn't look at me. Linda squeezed my shoulder. Well done. But I wasn't done. 2 weeks after the ethics board hearing, I received a text from Lily. Can we talk? Just you and me? We met at the coffee shop near her school. She ordered hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. I got black coffee. Mom and Marcus are fighting a lot, she said quietly, stirring her drink. About money? I'm sorry, sweetheart. Marcus said he might have to move out. Mom's upset. She looked up at me. Is it because of the job thing? I chose my words carefully. Marcus applied for a job at my company. He wasn't qualified, so we didn't hire him. He got angry about that. He said you sabotaged him because you're jealous? Do you think I'm jealous? She considered this seriously, in the way 8-year-olds do when they're trying to understand adult problems. I think Marcus says a lot of things that aren't true. Like what? Like that we're going to move to a bigger house. We've been in the same apartment for forever. And he said he was going to take me to Disneyland, but we never went. And he tells Mom he's going to get this big job. But then he doesn't. She swirled her whipped cream. I heard them fighting. Mom said something about bills. I waited. Dad, is Mom okay? Like, with money? That's when I understood the question she was really asking. The one that kept her up at night, the anxiety that manifested in chewed fingernails and questions about whether we'd always have enough. Your mom is going to be fine, I promise. But Marcus is a grown man. Whatever happens with him is between him and your mom. But you're always going to be taken care of. Always. She nodded, but the worry didn't completely leave her face. That night, I got a call from Vanessa, the first time we'd spoken since the ethics hearing. Derek, we need to talk. I'm listening. Marcus is moving out. It's not working. Her voice was tight. And I need to ask you something. Go ahead. The car payment, the one you co-signed for. I can't afford it anymore. I need you to either take over the payments or let them repo it. There it was, the foundation crumbling. How far behind are you? 3 months. They're threatening repossession. 3 months. That meant Marcus had been unemployed longer than 7 months. Probably closer to a year, with whatever savings he'd had running out right around the time he'd started making threats about his connections and resources. What else? What do you mean? What else are you behind on, Vanessa? Silence. Then, rent, 2 months, The landlord sent an eviction notice. Jesus. I know, okay? Marcus said he had money coming, consulting contracts, opportunities. He paid for things in the beginning. But then? Her voice cracked. Then it stopped, and I believed him when he said it was temporary, that the job at your company would fix everything. So you knew about the job application. He told me it was a formality, that his experience made him a lock. When you rejected him, he said you did it to hurt us, to hurt me. And you believed that? What was I supposed to believe? You two hate each other? I don't hate him, Vanessa. I don't think about him at all except when he forces me to. I took a breath. He wasn't qualified. 2 of his references were fake. He's been unemployed for probably a year, not 7 months. There's a civil judgment against him for unpaid business debts. Everything he told you about his career, his success, his opportunities, it was a lie. More silence. I can't do this anymore. Her voice was barely a whisper. I can't keep Lily in this situation. She knows something's wrong. She's anxious all the time. I know. She told me. I don't know what to do. Here was the moment, the place where I could either maintain my boundaries or fall back into the pattern that had cost me $112,460. The moment where generosity and self-preservation stood on opposite sides of a line. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'll handle the car payment for 6 months. That gives you time to either refinance it in your name alone or sell it. After 6 months, it's your responsibility. Derek, I'm not finished. I'll also pay 2 months' rent directly to your landlord, not to you, directly. That clears your arrears and gives you a buffer. But after that, you need to figure out your budget without expecting me to be the backup plan. I don't expect. Yes, you do. You've expected it for 3 years because I kept saying yes. That's ending. I'll make sure Lily is taken care of. I'll buy her what she needs, pay for her activities, cover her medical expenses, but I'm not subsidizing your lifestyle anymore. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Then, thank you. I'm not doing it for you. I know. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking about patterns and boundaries and the difference between kindness and enabling. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I poured myself a whiskey and raised the glass to the empty room. To knowing when enough is enough. 3 weeks later, Paula buzzed my office. Derek, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. Who? Marcus Chen. I considered turning him away. Then curiosity won. Send him in. He looked different. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by something off the rack. No leather portfolio. No commanding presence. He looked like what he actually was, a middle-aged man whose carefully constructed facade had collapsed. I need to talk to you. He remained standing, hands shoved in pockets. You have 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Of all the things I'd expected, that wasn't one of them. For what, specifically? For all of it. The things I said at the recital, the emails, the ethics complaint. He exhaled. I was desperate. I'd been out of work for 14 months. I had maybe $3,000 left when I met Vanessa. I thought if I could just project success long enough, something would come through. So you lied. I exaggerated. I made myself sound more successful than I was. And then I met Vanessa, and she was struggling, and I wanted to be the hero. So I paid for things I couldn't afford, promised things I couldn't deliver. He looked at me directly for the first time. When your daughter talked about you, about how you always showed up, always paid for things, always made sure she was okay. I hated you. Because I knew I couldn't compete with that, not honestly. Why are you telling me this? Because I destroyed a good thing trying to prove I was something I'm not. Vanessa deserves better. Your daughter deserves better. And you? He shook his head. You did your job. You evaluated my application honestly and found it lacking. That's not personal. That's professional. I made it personal because I couldn't face the truth. I leaned back in my chair. What do you want, Marcus? Nothing. I'm moving back to California. My brother has a business, says he can use help. It's not glamorous, but it's real work. He moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Lily talks about you constantly. You're a good father. I'm sorry I tried to diminish that. After he left, I sat there trying to process the conversation. There was no satisfaction in his apology. Just a tired recognition that people are complicated, that desperation makes us do ugly things, and that sometimes the victory doesn't feel like winning. But there was something else too. Relief. The weight I'd been carrying for 3 years, the need to prove myself, to justify my worth, to compete with someone else's definition of success. It lifted. Because Marcus's apology wasn't really what I needed. What I needed was already in my hands, my daughter's trust, my professional integrity, and the knowledge that I'd maintained my boundaries even when it was hard. Everything else was just noise. Spring arrived early that year. By mid-March, the snow had melted, and Spokane had that tentative quality of a city, remembering what warmth felt like. Lily spent more time at my apartment, not because of any formal custody change, but because Vanessa was working extra shifts to stabilize her finances, and Lily preferred the quiet consistency of my place to the chaos of her mother's apartment in transition. We fell into routines, homework at the kitchen table. Dinner, sometimes elaborate, usually simple. Saturday morning pancakes. Sunday afternoon walks along the river. One Saturday, while we were making breakfast, she asked, "Are you happy, Dad?" I flipped a pancake, considering the question. "Yeah, sweetheart, I am." "You seem different, like lighter." "Lighter how?" "Like you're not worried all the time. You smile more." She was right. Somewhere between setting boundaries and watching Marcus's house of cards collapse, I'd stopped carrying weight that was never mine to carry. The constant low-grade anxiety about whether I was doing enough, giving enough, being enough, it had evaporated. "I learned something important," I told her. "Being a good dad doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Sometimes it means saying no." "Is that why you said no to Vale?" "Partly, but mostly because our custody agreement exists for a reason. You need time with both parents." "That's important." "I'm glad I didn't go." She poured syrup carefully, concentrating. Marcus was pretending a lot. Mom tries to pretend she didn't notice, but I think she knew. Your mom made choices based on what she thought was best. We all do that sometimes. Do you still love her? The question caught me off guard. I'll always care about your mom. We made you, which is the best thing I've ever done. But no, I'm not in love with her anymore. Good, because she wasn't very nice to you. She was dealing with her own stuff, Lily. People are complicated. Adults are weird. That's fair. April brought Lily's 9th birthday. Vanessa called to coordinate the party. I was thinking we could do it at that trampoline place. Split the cost? How much? $350 for the party package, so $175 each. I'll pay for it. Derek, you don't have to. I want to, but I'm handling it directly. I'll book the party, you handle the cake and invitations. A pause, then, okay, thank you. The party was chaos in the best way. 15 kids bouncing off walls, pizza consumed in quantities that defied physics, Lily glowing with happiness. Vanessa and I maintained polite distance, coordinating logistics but not pretending to be something we weren't. Near the end, while kids were destroying cake, Vanessa approached me. She's having a good time. She is. I've been thinking. She watched Lily. About the past few years. The way I handled things. Vanessa, let me say this. I blamed you for a lot. For the divorce, for the money problems, for not being enough. But you were always enough for her. She nodded toward Lily. And I took advantage of that. Your generosity, your consistency. I let Marcus convince me you were inadequate because it was easier than admitting I'd made mistakes. We both made mistakes. Maybe, but you never stopped showing up, even when I made it difficult, even when Marcus was... She shook her head. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just want you to know I see it now. What you did, what you sacrificed. I did it for Lily. I know, but I should have appreciated it more. After the party, driving Lily home, she fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted and sugar-crashed. I looked at her in the rearview mirror, this person I'd helped create, who existed because of choices I'd made, who trusted me completely despite everything. The $112,460 didn't matter anymore. The humiliation at the recital, the threatening emails, the ethics complaint, none of it mattered. This did. This quiet moment, driving through spring evening light, my daughter safe and happy in the back seat. Everything else was just expensive noise. June brought Lily's end-of-year piano recital. Same cafeteria, same poster paint smell, same makeshift stage. But different. I sat in the third row, not calculating neutral territory, just sitting where I wanted to sit. Vanessa was in the back with her mother. They'd reconciled after years of distance, another consequence of Marcus's departure, clearing space for authentic relationships. Lily played a piece she'd been working on for months. Still imperfect, still more enthusiasm than technique, but better, growing. When she finished, she looked directly at me and smiled, not checking, not seeking permission, just sharing joy with someone she knew would appreciate it. After the recital, we went out for ice cream, just the two of us. Next year, I want to try guitar, she said, chocolate chip mint dripping down her cone. Yeah? Piano's good, but guitar seems cooler. We can make that happen. It might be expensive. We'll figure it out, she grinned. You always say that. Because it's always true. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I poured a whiskey and sat on my balcony. The city spread out below, lights coming on as evening deepened. Somewhere out there, Marcus was rebuilding his life in California. Vanessa was figuring out how to stand on her own. Lily was growing into a person I was increasingly proud to know. And I was here, no longer trying to prove anything, no longer carrying other people's weight, no longer confusing generosity with self-destruction. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Congratulations. The director position just opened up. Your name's on the short list. I smiled. 3 years ago, I would have seen that as validation, as proof that I was enough. Now I saw it as simply an opportunity, one I'd earned through consistent work, not through desperate attempts to prove my worth. I raised my glass to the empty evening air. To boundaries, to knowing when enough is enough, to building a life instead of funding someone else's illusion. The whiskey tasted like freedom, like new beginnings. Like a future I was choosing instead of reacting to. My daughter trusted me. My colleagues respected me. I'd maintained my integrity through situations designed to break it. Everything else? Everything else was just expensive noise, and I was done paying attention to noise. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments, because the people who learn from other people's mistakes don't have to make those mistakes themselves. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.